Advance. Space is limited, so don't wait. Head to KBLA1580.com right now and lock in your spot. Friday, June 19th, The Beehive, KBLA Talk 1580. 5 years strong, and we're just getting started.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
Yeah, man!
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 oh. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA, Talk 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Tenacious Tuesday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And in this hour, in the second segment, I'll be bringing on one of my guests, a rabbi who lives in Alabama, to get an update from him on what is taking place in that state with respect to a number of issues: anti-Semitism, the Voting Rights Act, and the consequences of the midterm elections. But before that, I want to offer an opine in this segment in light of the boycott that has been called by the NAACP and national organizations regarding African-American athletes. I call it a reconsideration of an effective response to Louisiana versus Calais, Section 2 and 5 of the Voting Rights Act, an ongoing assault against African-Americans by the current administration. If you're from the North and you want to change the South, you have to be real careful not to hurt or add burden to the slave, indentured servant, or anyone else trying to escape the plantation and its various forms of and systems of discrimination. Historically, higher education and the Underground Railroad have proven to be the most effective methods of escape. Yes, we can leave the South, come north. If you want to end slavery, targeting slave owners and the industry of cotton that sustained slavery was key. We must target the industries that sustain MAGA in the South. By advocating to stop the expansion of slavery into the Western territories, Lincoln's election stopped the expansion of the slave business into the Western states. The slave business no longer had government support. Lincoln's careful conduct of the war eventually led the pro-Union coalition to the idea of emancipation and a 13th Amendment. Lincoln argued that the Southern states did not have the right to leave the Union and expand their business into the Western territories. And Lincoln did not advance the idea of emancipation until after Gettysburg. At that point, Lincoln firmly placed the government on the side of abolition. Therefore, a poor kid and his family trying to escape poverty in the South, the consequences of slavery and centuries of discrimination in the South with an education that we've all asked them to get, may not be the best thought out approach to ask a 17-year-old child and their parents, many of whom just finished high school or never attended college themselves, whose only hope and opportunity to escape poverty, to give up on that one opportunity is asking a lot. As a people, we've survived, by the grace of God, a genocide, but our response must not be fratricide, brother on brother violence. Some of our kids are being offered scholarships at these big schools because we fought for these big schools to offer them scholarships, including the resources that they've earned with their names, images, and likenesses. Unlike the Lincoln government, the Trump government is not on our side. In fact, the Trump government is giving aid and comfort to the slave business. If we want to strike a blow for freedom, emancipation, and democracy, consider the architects of industry in the South that are anti-union, anti-raising the minimum wage, anti-sustaining a livable and a thriving wage, the architects and industry that sustains current political behavior. In this moment, we should give thoughtful consideration to Lincoln's approach. He's often vilified for his actions and his inactions, and even for his delays. But some of these considerations are considerations that he had to give thought to so as not to create additional burden for the potentially freed men and women. He was well advised by Frederick Douglass and others. As food for thought, should our largest, I'm going to say it again, our largest and oldest African American organizations be directing what we should do with our own children? Or should we be challenging, or should they be challenging, the largest, most influential companies in the entire region, the South, in the most powerful nation on earth, coordinate our appropriate response of our political and economic disenfranchisement? It's easy to kick our children in the behind, but it's not the best use of their time, our organization's time, or our leadership's. Methinks they should be fighting the fight at the highest level and not live beneath their organizational privilege. Lastly, in the present, we must never forget we need 270 electoral votes in order to stop this madness. We need Georgia, Florida, North Carolina to join our blue state coalition to stop MAGA. Consider these industries. The American South boasts highly diversified economy anchored by advanced manufacturing, aerospace and defense, energy, agribusiness, and rapidly expanding technology and healthcare sectors. The region benefits from a lower cost of living, business-friendly regulations, and extensive logistical networks. Key drivers: advanced manufacturing. The South, primarily states like South Carolina, Alabama, and Kentucky, is a powerhouse for automotive, electric vehicles, and heavy machinery production. Aerospace and aviation. Major corporations like Boeing, GE Aerospace have a massive footprint in the region, drawn by hubs in Florida, Alabama, and the Carolinas. Energy, traditional oil and gas refining along the Gulf Coast is paired with a booming sector in renewable energy technologies and battery manufacturing. Technology and data. Northern Virginia features the largest data center market in the world. Meanwhile, hubs in cities like Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, Texas are major drivers for software and tech. Agribusiness. Agribusiness remains a foundational economic pillar of the South. The region is a massive producer of livestock, poultry, cotton, and timber. Healthcare and finance. Fueled by a growing population, healthcare systems are the top employer in the South. And lastly, logistics and distribution. Deep water ports such as Savannah and Charleston and extensive trucking rail networks make supply chain management an economic juggernaut in the South. If we really, as Black organizations, want to challenge MAGA discrimination, consider Delta Airlines. They connect the South, through Atlanta, in every major southern location. That's how you get to the South. Many of these small airports. My point is this, and it is only this, that our organization should not be living beneath their privilege. They should be looking at targets the size and scope of the problem to break the will and to break the back of MAGA. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, Rabbi Michael Rothenberg will be joining us, and at the top of the next hour, we'll be listening to an amazing interview between Tavis Smiley and Jim Clyburn. More when we come forward right here at KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from IQBar. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at eatiqbar.com/policy/terms of service.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQBar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ bar products, plus free shipping. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 9 plant protein bars, 8 hydration mixes, and 4 mushroom coffee sticks. And now you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping when you text RADIO to 64,000. Text RADIO to 64,000 to get your 20% off. That's RADIO to 64,000.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
1980, my very good friend, Michael Rothenberg, former judge in DeKalb County, Georgia. He served on DeKalb County Recorder's Court between 2007 and 2008. His education includes earning an undergraduate degree in Jewish Law and Studies from the University of Florida, where he graduated with honors. His honors thesis on Jewish studies is found amongst the collection at the Library of Congress. In Washington, D.C., he earned a J.D. from the South Texas College of Law. Dr. Rothenberg, Rabbi Rothenberg, Attorney Rothenberg, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's great to see you, my friend. How are you?
It's always a pleasure, my brother, and it's great to see that beard. Wow.
I know. We're in a period of our religious calendar where for a period of about 7 weeks we weren't able to cut our hair. I just haven't gotten around to getting rid of the beard yet. It amuses my kids, at least for now.
You look great, Rabbi. Rabbi, you're down there in Alabama. Lot going on in politics, a lot going on in the world with respect to anti-Semitism, with respect to the Voting Rights Act, more specifically in the state of Alabama. Why don't we start with, if you don't mind, because Jim Clyburn will be our very special guest in the next hour. Why don't we start with the enfranchisement or the disenfranchisement and some of the court's most recent rulings in Alabama, including the elimination of the Shamari Figures District, which the court has just said within the last 24 hours and maybe even within the last few minutes that the state of Alabama cannot change its congressional districts for the midterm, therefore buying the Shamari Figures District obviously more time going forward. Your thoughts, Rabbi?
Yeah, it's there's where do you begin? Regarding that news, my understanding is that the state of Alabama is now announcing that they're going to appeal that decision to the Supreme Court. They're going full force, it seems, in an effort to redraw these districts ahead of these elections. And it's ironic because we just had elections here. We had the primary elections in several different races, including governor, where you have the governor race set up between Tommy Tuberville, who was the senator here, and Doug Jones, who used to be the senator here and was the U.S. attorney, I believe, here for a while in Birmingham. And now you have the state of Alabama joining its sister states and trying to redraw all of these districts ahead of all of the congressional elections because the U.S. Supreme Court told them, at least they believe they told them, that they could do so. I'm not convinced that the U.S. Supreme Court actually said that because, you know, the Supreme Court of the United States likes to talk in metaphors and riddles and sort of this vague, we are only going to address one issue and then what you all do with that is up to you. Now, we could argue about whether they want this to happen, the Supreme Court justices. That's a whole different argument, and I think that probably they do, at least the majority of them do. But you're seeing this here. You're seeing this in Louisiana. You're seeing this all throughout the American South, where they are trying to rig these districts to disenfranchise large amounts of people, to further dilute the ability of certain of the minorities that are in the South to have a voice. And, you know, what they've effectively done is they've effectively packed the courts here over the last 15, 20 years. This is not just a President Trump thing. This goes back to George W. Bush and all of that. You know, they decided to pack the courts with ultra conservatives. You have here in this circuit, the 11th Circuit of the U.S. Court of Appeals, which covers Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, used to be, back in the old days, much more liberal, and now it's extremely radical. So you have this is all set up on a tee for them.
You know, that's really interesting because I often share with our listeners that it takes 218 votes to get anything done in the Congress of the United States. So if you're driving, for example, in California on the 110, the 118, the 10, the 5, or the 101, maybe even 405, you ask yourself the question, well, what is Jesse Jr. talking about? Or what is KBLA talking about? Why are they focusing on elections in Alabama and not here in Los Angeles, even though we do both? The fact of the matter is, you brought up an interesting point about judges in Alabama being able to draw lines because those lines can determine the effective representative of the voices that they do send to Congress, that in order to get something done, we need 218 of those voices for healthcare, for housing, to fight right to work laws, to fight a pro-union agenda, a human rights agenda in the state of Alabama and in the state of California. And we are not allowed the liberty to disengage from what's taking place in Alabama and how these lines are drawn because they affect the behavior of the Congress of the United States and ultimately the behavior of the country itself. And so if I'm on the 405 and I think that I want to focus on California. I don't want to focus on Alabama, or I don't care what's going on at congressional district in the state of Illinois, or I don't care what's happening in New York or Tennessee or any of these other congressional districts. You should care, because those are the pro-environmental votes. Those are the votes that fight against racism and anti-Semitism in the South. Those voices do matter on the floor of the Congress, Rabbi.
100%. If you're in California, it should matter to you what's going on in rural Alabama, what's going on, for example, in Selma, in that district, what's going on in Birmingham, in that district, what's going on in Montgomery, Alabama, in that district, not just from a historical point of view, which is that it was the birthplace, you could argue, of much of the civil rights advancements of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, but they are trying to remove the Congress people, the men and the women that represent probably, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I'm guessing it's millions of people, in an effort to reduce the number of votes that could oppose the SAVE Act, that could oppose wars that the country doesn't want, that could oppose, for example, whether California gets certain federal funding or not, based on the whim of the executive, whoever the executive is at that moment. Congress's job is I always say Congress is maybe more important than the presidential election in almost every area. I think certainly when it comes to pardons and other things, the president is the sole person there. But the Congress is where the sausage is made, for lack of a better expression. And so if you live in New York, if you live in Chicago, LA, wherever you might be, it matters to you whether or not a district in, let's say, Arkansas is being changed so that people can be disenfranchised, so that vote now goes away. People always say, well, why did they try to impeach President Trump twice? They didn't have the votes. Well, they would have had the votes had people gone out to their congressional elections on election day and voted. And what they are trying to do is they are starting to realize, especially in Georgia. You mentioned Georgia earlier. I used to live there, especially in that state where you have a very growing blue population. They're trying as hard as they possibly can to suppress that, because if they don't, then what's going to happen is demographically the makeup of the U.S. House and the Senate is going to change, and that is going to directly affect what laws are passed, what vetoes could be overridden, and what powers the executive has. Do we have an executive like we do now who seems to be authoritarian and has unlimited powers in his own mind? Or do we have a Congress whose job it is to rein that person in and make them follow the laws? That matters. So it matters not just what's going on in the big districts, but here in the South, throughout the South, it matters. Mississippi, another state that this is dealing with this, Mississippi and Alabama, are basically sisters in this. Very, very deep red MAGA, but has a very large and growing population. That things are changing in the South. And I think that's frightening the powers that be.
I think it's also very interesting that when I think about Congressman Jim Clyburn, who within the last hour, the South Carolina legislature, the Senate, opposed, at least 12, I believe maybe 13 senators opposed the idea of redrawing Congressman Clyburn's district, or implementing a more conservative map that would have potentially eliminated Jim Clyburn's district out of the state of South Carolina. On the Democratic side, it means a whole lot, because Jim Clyburn is that kind of influential figure. When we get finished with the Iowa caucuses, we go to the New Hampshire primary, and the first primary, where African Americans actually participate on a scale that is commensurate with their numbers, comes out of South Carolina. And Jim Clyburn's influence in helping determine who the Democratic nominee is, who's on the ticket with the Democratic nominee, and future Supreme Court justices, that voice is a proven voice that led to Kamala Harris and Ketanji Brown Jackson, which are votes that we need not only to break ties in the Senate, but they're also votes that we need in the Supreme Court itself, in order to hold a conservative Roberts Court accountable. Ketanji Brown Jackson owes her seat in South Carolina in large measure because that congressional seat and the influence of Jim Clyburn in that state matters. Now, on the other hand, there are not enough Democrats out of South Carolina to swing the electoral votes for the state of South Carolina to vote for president of the United States. And because that's a winner-take-all system, even though Democrats may vote in Jim Clyburn's district, The state, when it votes for a Republican candidate for president, that presidential candidate usually wins the entire state's electoral votes. And while in Alabama, we may have Congresswoman Sewell's congressional district and Shamari Figures' district, theoretically 2 electoral votes for a Democrat out of Alabama if they win the state of Alabama because of the winner-take-all system towards the electoral college votes. But when we think about other states, in order to help Democrats get to 270 electoral vote, every time we lose a for sure African-American Democratic vote or Hispanic vote or Asian American vote or Native American vote, and we lose that state, those are votes that are counted towards the 270 electoral votes that MAGA needs to elect a president. Remember, the presidency is not a popularity contest. It is an electoral college contest. And Donald Trump was looking for 11,700 votes in the state of Georgia so that he could win the state of Georgia, and under the winner-take-all electoral college scheme, it would have guaranteed him enough and to be president, I believe, maybe as early as 2000, the very election that he was complaining about, which is why he was looking for enough individual votes to accomplish that fact. That's true in Alabama as well. Am I right? Am I right, Rabbi?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Congresswoman Sewell, who is a legend. Obviously, Representative Clyburn is an icon and a legend. I don't think, in my opinion, that Joe Biden would have been president without Representative Clyburn. I don't think Justice Jackson would be Justice Jackson without Representative Clyburn. So I think what's going on is the sycophants that are around the chief executive. I don't think he has the mental capacity to fully understand all of the ramifications, but I think his people do. And I think that they go about saying, we need to really take this guy out, because if we eliminate that voice, then we don't have to deal with this. My personal opinion is that the electoral college, it should be abolished.
Absolutely.
It's an atrocity that we still do this in this country. If you look at and people will say, well, the founders, everything the founders did is like the Bible itself. But the founders did that because, there weren't anybody in Wyoming. We didn't have a Wyoming back in those days. We didn't have, you have 2 senators from Wyoming and 2 senators from California. It doesn't make any sense. But you're right. It's a winner-take-all system in almost every state. I believe Maine is different, and there's one other. I can't remember which one it is. Yeah. But here, you could have a Representative Sewell be elected and be a voice to be the sort of the one that reins in the other side, even though the Democratic nominee, whoever he or she is not going to win the state of Alabama. But I would also say, if you have that mentality where Alabama's lost forever, then we wouldn't be in a situation like we're seeing in Texas right now. So.
Our very special guest in this hour is Rabbi Michael Rothenberg, a judge in DeKalb County, Georgia. He served on the DeKalb County Recorder's Court between August 2007 and August of 2008. Judge Rothenberg is our very special guest. At the top of the hour, in our next hour, on Tenacious Tuesdays, Tavis Smiley will be interviewing Jim Clyburn for an uninterrupted half hour. Hoping everyone will tune in at that hour. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Senator Cory Booker is blasting President Trump's handling of Iran. The Black New Jersey Democrat told CNN State of the Union the president has made the situation worse, claiming Iran advanced its uranium enrichment because of Trump's decisions.
So we haven't had an official briefing, but this is what I'm seeing that has me so outraged right now.
Booker also argued a possible new deal could give Iran more money to fund terrorist proxies, saying the president, quote, has been played as a fool, end quote. Federal judges are blocking Alabama's Republican-drawn congressional map, saying it likely discriminates against Black voters. Unless the Supreme Court steps in, Alabama will use a court-drawn map for this year's midterms that includes a second majority Black district. And a mural honoring Ona Judge is now on display in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Judge escaped enslavement by George Washington at 22 and lived the rest of her life free. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A lot of people are calling it the best playoff run in NBA history. You can make a good case for the New York Knicks after they swept Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks have won 11 straight playoff games and have suddenly become a potential favorite to win the NBA championship. Knicks fans in Los Angeles are rejoicing over their team making it to the NBA Finals for the first time in 27 years. The Knicks will have plenty of time to rest and prepare for the finals, which tip off June 3rd. The Western Conference Finals will go at least 6 games. San Antonio and Oklahoma City are tied at 2-2. Game 5 is tonight in OKC. Congratulations to the baseball team at HBCU Alabama State. Alabama State won the SWAC Conference title Monday with an 8-6 win over Florida A&M. The victory gives Alabama State an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa,
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk. But we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for healthcare, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelinos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Going to a World Cup match in LA this summer? Ditch the parking stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Quality drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We want to take this opportunity to be reflective and to remember the fallen. In light of the fact that we were not on the radio live yesterday, we have not lost sight of the men and women who've sacrificed since the inception of our nation that we might be free. Grateful to those families and to those service members for their sacrifice. At the top of the hour, Tavis Smiley will be interviewing Jim Clyburn right here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Representative Clyburn has some very important points brought out in the Tavis Smiley interview about redistricting, about the current state of African-American politics and the challenges that confront us for voting going forward and what we must do to ensure that Democrats regain control of the Congress in the next election. There are elections taking place all over the country today, and we should not be unmindful of the fact that if you have not voted, we need you to go out and vote. In this hour, Rabbi Michael Rothenberg graduated from law school, worked as an associate at a small law firm in Roswell, Georgia. In 2006, he formed the litigation law firm of Rothenberg and Barnes, LLC in Atlanta, Georgia. Most recently, he was an attorney in private practice in Roswell, Georgia. Rothenberg was appointed to the DeKalb County Recorder's Court in August of 2007 at age 29. He was reportedly one of the youngest judges ever appointed in Georgia's history. Rabbi Rothenberg, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Rabbi, can we pivot to the Middle East for a moment? I guess some of it hinges also upon some of the behavior that you might be witnessing in the South in light of the withdrawal of political protections from minority groups in the South. There is a rise of anti-Semitism. There is a rise of racism, not only in the country, but it's very regionally specific in many cases in those states where there has been a long practice of discrimination, disenfranchisement in the South. And I'm wondering if you're seeing, one, that increase in Alabama in the subtle ways that only you might be sensitive to for our listening audience, but also what you think the consequences of the war in the Middle East between the United States, Iran, and Israel, and how that might be complicating people's thinking about many subject matters at this hour. Rabbi?
That's two very important topics. In Alabama, it's an interesting juxtaposition. On the one hand, when we go to synagogue, there are armed police outside for our protection.
That's today? There are armed police at synagogue in
we had
Alabama
a holiday
today?
Yes, just on Friday and Saturday. We had a religious holiday, a major religious holiday, and we have at our synagogue armed police outside every single event that we do at the synagogue, whether it's services, whether it's a community event. The local authorities have worked very closely with our synagogues here to make sure that, God forbid, nothing happens here.
But that does suggest that there is, I hate to use this word, but there's a kind of terror that if you go to worship, you have to plan for armed security guards to be present at the synagogue.
Yes, I think that's what certainly would be Jewish in America in 2026 is like. I'll give you another example. My oldest daughter, goes to college in New York City. Obviously, the largest Jewish population outside of Israel in the world, in New York City. And during the aftermath of October 7th, when there were protesters that the police could not control, she had to be escorted by armed police from her dorm across the street to her classes, so that she could be able to attend class. And as a person who was 18 years old at the time, not political in any way, and just wanted to attend class. And you had protesters who were banging on the doors of her dorm, calling not just her, but her and her friends all sorts of names that we can't say, or no person should be subjected to. Racism, discrimination, Bigotry is disgusting in all of its forms, whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's racism against African Americans. It's all part of the same disease. What you see, though, in the South is a more genteel version of it. I look, there are many beautiful people here in Alabama that genuinely care about our community, are locally. I personally have never felt embarrassed or ashamed or afraid to go and wear my head covering out in public or be with my obviously Jewish children who dress and look that way. And so there is some credit that is due there. And whether you could argue whether that is a religious ideology coming from certain Southern Baptists or other religions, we certainly appreciate it. And we, any kind of ally is a good ally. As it relates,
Let me ask you a quick question about coalition politics, since you brought it up. I mean, African Americans have historically been discriminated against from one end of the country to the one end of the world to the other. No different than the anti-Semitism and discrimination that Jews have experienced. Do you sense in Alabama that the pain that both African Americans and Jewish Alabamans experience in Alabama, that there's an opportunity for coalition politics?
Absolutely. I think there's always room for collaboration and cooperation, because at the end of the day, discrimination and racism, it's the same disease. It may look different to me, but here you see something interesting in the South that I've noticed. I'm not a sociologist, but I can tell you just from my own observations. If you go into Birmingham, for example, beautiful city, the local authorities work very well with us, and they are wonderful. They protect us. We haven't had any incidents here, thank God. But then you go into certain areas of Birmingham, and you could tell that those districts were drawn a certain way to keep certain people out. You have certain areas of Birmingham that are 98% white. You have certain areas of Birmingham that are 98% African American. Why is that? And so you say, my children ask me that question, and I say, it's to me, it's still a form of segregation. It's just not out there. Like in Alabama, they're not out there with hoses anymore. They're doing things more surreptitiously. And I don't call out Alabama just Alabama. This happens throughout the South. It's done in a more genteel way, right? They're trying to redraw districts. Oh, but we're not trying to discriminate against people. We're trying to. This is what the president and the Congress does. But at the end of the day, the effect is the same. And what it does is it removes people like Congresswoman Sewell, for example, from office. And those individuals are there as the check and balance on the majority. And that's the way that the founders designed the country. So while it may not be as open and obvious, it does exist. To say that racism and discrimination does not exist, and it's not just the South. It happens in the North as well. It happens in every major city. Yeah.
The South Side of Chicago, the district that I represented in Congress for 17 years, is a Voting Rights Act district, just like Congresswoman Sewell's and Shamari Figures. But that's also because of the history of housing discrimination in Alabama that drew us or forced us to live on certain sides of town, and we were not welcome, de facto or de jure, on other sides of town. And the end result of it is the idea that Congress itself has to be desegregated. So you draw the lines not because they're squares or they're circles or they're rectangles or triangles. You draw the lines to give people an equal opportunity of having their voices heard on the floor of the Congress of the United States without filter. That's the history of the Voting Rights Act. It doesn't create the racial dynamic on the other side of town, but it is a remedy to the fact that we can have, as we did in the previous century, an all-white Congress or an all-Christian, so-called Christian Congress, where different points of view are not welcomed on the floor of the Congress. I know, Rabbi, we're going to have more time when we come forward to discuss this and other issues, but I do want to move your attention to the conflict in the Middle East and whether or not it is also exacerbating domestic sentiments. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. One of my close and dearest friends, Rabbi Michael Rothenberg, who is down in Alabama. I'm getting a feel for him on what's really, really going on from our children and perspectives that matter. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic. And when he say he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, he ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction,
backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for State Superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee, not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
Are you still pouring gallons and gallons of water into a thirsty lawn that never seems to get enough water? LADWP has a special offer for a free water-saving front yard refresh available to eligible LADWP residential customers. LADWP handles all the work, including lawn removal, installing an efficient irrigation system, and planting beautiful California-friendly plants. Save water and lower your bill with a free front yard refresh. See if you qualify at LADWP.com/LEAP. That's LADWP.com/LEAP. Avoid the rush by voting early. You can visit any vote center daily from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Visit plan.lavote.gov to find one near you. Don't wait. Brought to you by the Los Angeles County Registrar.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Tenacious Tuesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And at the top of the hour, Tavis Smiley will be conducting an interview for uninterrupted hour, a half hour, of Tavis talking with Jim Clyburn about the stakes relative to the midterms and the importance of majority-minority congressional districts and the attack and assault on Black people that we are experiencing, not only from the administration, but from the courts themselves. A very, very important interview. Please, please, please share on all of our social media platforms. The Tavis Smiley and Jim Clyburn interview will be with us in just a moment. Please share these posts now. In this particular hour, I'm grateful, however, that we will be at the end of that program on the grind with Barbara Arnwine, where for the final two segments of our show, we will unpack the Tavis Smiley and Jim Clyburn interview. Can't wait to see Barbara at the 30. In this hour, our very special guest has been none other than Rabbi Michael Rothenberg, a judge, an activist, a leader, and a friend. Rabbi, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you. It's great to
Rabbi,
be here.
if I didn't know better, I would almost declare, I want to swear, but I could almost declare that the United States is on the retreat in its conflict with Iran. Gas prices are high. The president and Pete Hegseth announced a flurry of a campaign at the very outset of this effort to so-called denuclearize Iran, even though 6 weeks before he launched the attack, he claimed victory over their nuclear capabilities by setting their program back decades, he said. But now the excuse, which is kind of on a sliding ruler, is that he is still waiting for Iran to commit to never having a nuclear weapon. But the reality is gas prices are going up, food prices are going up. Our farmers are going to be missing certain planting seasons as a result of the absence of fertilizer. Rabbi, your thoughts about whether or not this conflict with Iran is going well, not going well, and what the long-term consequences could be.
Yeah, it's an interesting issue. I look at it from two different lenses. I look at it from the lens of an American citizen, and I look at it through the lens of an observant Jew. I'll take the second one because that's the easier one. The former Ayatollah of Iran was, in my opinion, a theocratic terrorist, a man who would stone women to death for showing their hair, a man who would kill people who are in the LGBTQ community. This was an evil human being, a person who wanted to get nuclear weapons so that he could achieve his dream of wiping Israel and specifically the Jewish people off the map. So I don't weep for the fact that the Ayatollah does not walk the earth among us anymore. As an American, however, I look at it like a failure in the sense that if your stated mission was to go in there and create a free and democratic Iran, you didn't do that. That was what you said. I mean, the president said, that was his idea. He is also claiming victory for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which of course was open before this happened. As an American who had to pay, I was recently in Florida and I had to pay $5.02 a gallon to fill my car up This is direct impact of this. And of course, the president and certain other people that are around him say, well, it's typical, just a little bit of pain in order to achieve a certain goal. But the goal that he claims to have achieved, I don't see it happening. I don't believe that Iran is ever going to say that they're going to give up their aspirations for nuclear weapons. And if they tell you that and you believe them, then you're a fool. But he will use that to claim victory in this conflict. But what he has done is created a very difficult situation for Americans with no plan to get out of it. Very similar to his healthcare plan, which I think we're still waiting for, that he said was going to be 2 weeks into it. So, if you look at it in totality, from a religious point of view, I have no issue with it. From an American point of view, they didn't finish the job. If you're going to do something like this, and all of us are going to suffer, then there better be a tangible result and a tangible benefit to the citizens of the U.S., and there just isn't.
Rabbi, we have about 2 minutes before we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I always ask my guest in the final 2 minutes of the program to offer a word of hope, and would love for you to do so.
Yeah, I think things are dark in our country. There's difficult times for everybody, not just financially, but racism is still in existence. I mean, you look at this as a person of faith. How could that be in 2026 when we are supposedly so enlightened? Why does this happen? What can we do to eradicate it? I would say the most important thing is to not allow outside forces to divide us based on race, gender, political belief, whatever differences that they want to achieve. We are better together. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We live in this country. We are all Americans. We have to respect everybody's point of view and their background and where they come from. And I would say that ultimately, if you are a person of faith, even if you're not a person of faith, anybody who believes in morality can believe that we can go back to the roots of what runs through this country, which is, at the end of the day, love your neighbor as yourself. And if you do that and we come together, we as a united people of Americans can overcome any kind of tyranny that will exist in the world. And that, to me, is the beauty of what the founders created.
Rabbi, can't wait to have you back before July 4th and during the 250th anniversary of the nation's founding. Looking very much forward to your perspective. Thank you for joining us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see you.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Tenacious Tuesday on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and we will have momentarily a very important interview with one of the leading figures, iconic figures in American politics, Jim Clyburn. A rare interview, 30 minutes, uninterrupted with Tavis Smiley, right here at KBLA Talk 1580. Barbara Arnwine will be joining us shortly after the interview to unpack the conversation between Tavis Smiley and Mr. Clyburn. Jim Clyburn is the first African-American and the only African-American to represent the state of South Carolina in the Congress of the United States in Second Reconstruction since Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954. That's just how long Jim Clyburn's service in Congress has been. He has a historical memory of the Congress of the United States that matters to every African-American, Hispanic, Asian American, and every minority that serves in any legislative body, not only in Congress, but across our country. Jim Clyburn is the very special guest of Tavis Smiley right here at KBLA Talk 1580. When we come forward, our leader, Tavis Smiley, will be conducting an important interview. More on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at the half hour.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley, and this is a special election year conversation with Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, one of the most influential Democrats in Congress. He's been in the House since 1993, rose to become the number 3 Democrat in leadership, and famously helped rescue Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign with a single endorsement just days before the South Carolina primary. At 85 years young, he's decided to run again, even as Democratic colleagues like Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer step aside. He says this moment is too important to sit out, and he means it. Clyburn has spent this midterm year fighting the SAVE Act, a Republican bill requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote, which he's compared to Jim Crow era voter suppression. He's calling it a defining battle for the future of American democracy. Democrats are laser focused on flipping the House in November, and Clyburn is one of the key voices making that case. So what does he see coming? What's at stake? Why is he running? What about voting rights? So many questions, so little time. Let's get started. Congressman Clyburn, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
It's good to have you on. Thank you for your time. Let me just jump right in, and I want to start with this notion of voter suppression. We'll get to the SAVE Act, I promise you, in a moment. But the news of the day, of the past few days, of the moment, is the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act as we have known it. Let me just start with getting your thoughts about that, and I will jump from there, sir.
Well, I think that we should have seen this coming. I certainly did. Way back when the Supreme Court first handed down its decision in the so-called Citizens United case. It was in that case that the Supreme Court elevated corporations to be individuals and also allowed dark money to be brought into the process. Before that time, if you were to take money, you had to say where you got it from. Now you don't have to say that. I said at that time, I wish I had written an op-ed piece on it. I said, this could very well be a decision that will be on par with the Dred Scott decision. Now, I said that because I could see what would happen to the political process. Now, we come a few years later, and here comes the case of Shelby v. Holder, taking away Section 5 of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Now, we see the Cali case taking away the second section of the Voting Rights Act, Section 2. So what do we have left now? Nothing. Now, because of that decision, we've got Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Florida, all decided to immediately redraw their congressional districts and eliminate these congressional districts from which African Americans were getting elected. We now have around 59 African Americans in the House of Representatives. When they finish this drawing, we could very well have right around 39. And other states say they're not going to do it this year, but they're going to do it for 2028. And in 2028, we will see ourselves, I think, less than 20 African Americans in the United States Congress. When I used to teach history, I used to have students who thought history was so boring and we ought not be talking about things that happened way back yonder. I used to say to my students all the time, anything that's happened before can happen again. And so when I started seeing these things happening, I sat down to write my third book that I call The First Eight. And it's about those 8 African Americans that served in Congress from South Carolina before me. But this wasn't just about those 8 personalities. It's also about how they left office. They left office, the last one in 1897. And then it was 95 years between George Washington Murray, number 8, and yours truly, number 9. 95 years because the Supreme Court started reinterpreting what the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments really meant. 13th Amendment freed the formerly enslaved. 14th Amendment gave them the due process of laws and equal protection of the law. 15th Amendment gave them the right to vote. But the Supreme Court started reinterpreting what that really meant. And what did it lead to? You got the right to vote, but you don't have the right to register to vote. And that's what led to the March on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. It was about voting. At the time of that march, in March 1965, only 3%, 0.03% of African Americans in the whole state of Alabama, when they were about 39% of the population, only 3% were registered to vote. Why? Because they were allowed to put in these texts, interpret sections of the Constitution to the satisfaction of somebody who could not even spell Constitution. How many bubbles in a bar of soap? How many jelly beans are in that jar? This is what was done to African Americans in Mississippi and Alabama in order to register to vote. And the 1965 Voting Rights Act got rid of all of that. Now that's gone for all intents and purposes. And what is coming back? These devices that were used back in the 1870s and 80s and 90s, the 8-box rule, full slate law, majority runoff requirements, all of these things that made it almost impossible for African Americans to register to vote, and therefore none of them were elected to office. And so that's what's happening today.
Yeah.
Now that this 1965 Voting Rights Act that made it possible for me to be in the Congress and all these other African Americans from the South going away, they're redrawing the lines. Their intention is that no African American will be in Congress from these states. And that is where we are.
I've said before, Congressman, that when you can't change the game, you change the rules. Absolutely. And I use that line because we all know that we are hurtling inexorably toward that day. The data is incontrovertible in this regard. We're headed toward a day where in a few years from now, for the first time ever, this country will be majority minority. People of color, as you well know, will outnumber our white brothers and sisters for the first time in the history of this country. So that's why I use that phrase. If you can't change the game, you change the rules. It seems to me that there are forces that are trying to slow down that impending reality. They're trying to slow down that day when they will be outnumbered. And so to your point, none of this ought to be a surprise. But I can only imagine, given how long you've lived and how honorably you have served us for decades now, that it must rub you raw in a particular way to see this 180 being done that you just talked about.
Absolutely, it does. In fact, just before I got on the air, I received a text from one of my daughters, and then I was on the phone conversation about another of my daughters, one who a lot of people thought would probably run for the seat I hold if I had retired. And I said to the person on the phone, I would be very, very upset today if I had walked away from this office and put her in what I see coming. I don't know if I could live with myself. The text I got was from another daughter. The 8th Circuit Court of Appeals just threw out, null and void, all of the protections that rural communities, Black communities had from the FCC non-discrimination rules. They've gotten rid of all of that. And now communities that needed to be protected so they could get broadband, they don't have to do it anymore. They can discriminate against them. If they decide now to redline communities for internet deployment the same way they did for home loans, that's now back in vogue. It means that what we could very well see is a return to Jim Crow as it was in the 1860s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. And what will that give us as a country?
Yeah. Let me pivot now to the SAVE Act. I mentioned earlier, you sort of teed this up a moment ago, so I want to just follow you. As I said earlier, you have spent this year fighting the SAVE Act. That is that Republican bill requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote. You made the eloquent point earlier that back in the day, you had the right to vote, but you couldn't register to vote. And so the SAVE Act fits nicely, I think, right now in this conversation. You've compared that SAVE Act that Republicans are pushing to a Jim Crow era voter suppression tactic. Say more about the SAVE Act and why you've been so aggressive in your opposition to it.
But the SAVE Act sets up all kinds of mechanisms that can be used to vote. Voter ID. What would be voter ID? Even a picture on your voter registration card. Photo ID. Well, that's not all that bad. But the question is, who determines which photo ID works? One of the examples that I've been using is that when they first started photo ID, they laid it out as to what IDs would be acceptable. And although if you're a college student with a student activity card that's got your picture on it, they're saying that will be no good. That, however, if you're a hunter and your picture is on your hunting license, that is okay. Give me a break. So when people see the SAVE Act and all the stuff they got in it, you better look at it. They call Save America Act. Save America from whom? And for whom? That is what we got to ask when people put these pretty little names on these bills, like they say, this big, beautiful bill. One of the ugliest things that ever happened to ordinary low-income people in this country was this so-called big, beautiful bill. It gave all kinds of tax breaks to wealthy people, while at the same time taking away low tax breaks for low-income people.
Yeah. I want to circle back to the story you told so beautifully and so lovingly and so eloquently about your daughters early in this conversation. I've learned over years of knowing you that you're going to bring your daughters up in every conversation. It's so clear how much you love your precious babies. They always seem to make a cameo in any conversation we have, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I raise that because the other way to read what you said earlier, Congressman, is that you have been in Congress for so long that you don't want to stick around to see the 180 that's being done to the important work that you've tried to lend your name and voice and support to over many decades. But yet at this age, you've decided to run again. The whole country was waiting to see what your decision weeks ago was going to be. Again, we all now know that decision, that you are running again. And I just wanted to ask a simple question. Why?
Because I saw this coming. And when I sat down with the daughters during the Christmas holidays, we discussed these cases, these court decisions. We discussed things I've been writing about. And of course, we discussed thoroughly the book. We released the first 8 back on November 11th. So during this Christmas holidays in December, we discussed the book. We look at all of these things, and we looked at the trends that were happening. And it was said to me, hey, you got to stay and fight. And then I asked them what your friends are saying. They are saying you've got to stay and fight. And so that's what I decided to do, to stay and fight. And I'm talking to other members. I was on the phone last night with our leader in the Congress, Hakeem Jeffries. I was on the phone this morning with Benny Thompson in Mississippi. And later this evening, I'll be talking with our 2 members in Louisiana. We are not going to roll over. We are not going to see our children and grandchildren live the life that our parents and grandparents lived. And that's what they are planning in many places.
Yep. I mentioned earlier that you decided to run again, even as Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi, your friends who you served alongside in leadership for years, they've stepped aside. But you also mentioned Benny Thompson. So I want to go to Benny Thompson. Benny Thompson was challenged in Mississippi. He beat back that challenge rather handily, as you well know. But Benny Thompson was challenged in Mississippi. Al Green is being challenged in Houston. Maxine Waters is being challenged here in LA. I could run the list if I had more time. You take my point that those who served honorably, but also served for a long time, and certainly in terms of the Black community, are being challenged by a younger generation. How do you read that?
Well, I'm being challenged here. You missed that. I do have an opponent.
Yep.
Announced opponent in the primary, and we'll have opponents in the general. Look, we've got to understand a couple of things about our system. They're now saying that the Voting Rights Act is no longer needed. They have already started saying that seniority in the Congress is not what it used to be. But it used to be that chairmen and chairwomen, like Maxine is, she's chair of the Financial Service Committee. Now, what committee do you think the person will be on who will replace her if they are successful? Benny Thompson is chair of the Homeland Security Committee. He chaired the January 6th committee. What committee would the person be on if that person had defeated him? And these things still go on. And just as we're at the precipice of making breakthroughs with financial institutions, breakthroughs with Homeland Security issues, I will chair, if I am reelected, the Transportation and HUD subcommittees of the Appropriations Committee. Bobby Scott will chair the Education Committee. You've got Gregory Meeks up in New York will chair the Foreign Affairs Committee. That's what this is about, to decapitate the power that has been achieved by these African-American members of Congress. And I have not mentioned all of them. And not just the full committees, but these subcommittees as well. And so that is a big part of what's going on here. And I would hope that people will pay attention to that and not listen to these people who are putting everything out here on the internet, and you believe what they say.
Yeah.
You don't know who's putting that stuff out there. I tell people all the time, when you see your responses, you count your hits. Is that your popularity? Are those people following you, or are they trolling you? There's a big difference.
I take your point. They could be trolling you and not following you. I hear you, Congressman Clyburn, dropping bars, and I love it. I'm in LA, as you well know. This is where I live, and I'm here every day doing my show. And LA happens to be the home of Karen Bass, who is running for re-election here as mayor of Los Angeles. She was your colleague in Congress for years, your friend, Javier Becerra. We all saw recently on the CNN stage as part of the California gubernatorial debate. And I wonder if I can ask you about them individually. first, your thoughts about Karen Bass, first black woman, first woman, period. Second African-American behind Tom Bradley, who I had the honor of working for. So she's the second African-American, the first woman to be mayor of this city in a tough re-election battle. Your thoughts first about Karen Bass, then we'll move to Javier Becerra.
I love Karen Bass. She is an incredibly smart woman. She is so even-keeled. And sometimes people mistake that kind of demeanor for weakness. Ain't nothing weak about Karen Bass. She's as tough as nails. And I do believe that a lot of times we in public office get blamed for things we have absolutely no control over. I approach life with the prayer of serenity in the forefront all the time. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. That's Karen Bass. Serenity, courage, wisdom. It all depends on what time it is as to what should be used. So I have no idea who her opponent is. I know who she is. And if I were in the Los Angeles, I'll be voting for her and working for her. Though since I'm not there, I can't vote for her, but I can work for her, and I am.
Yeah.
Now, Javier Becerra was my classmate. We got elected the same year. We served side by side. And one of the few things people may not know about Becerra knows the federal budget extremely well. We served on the so-called super committee together. I don't know if you remember that committee, but they put together this super committee that was chaired by Senator Kerry. That super committee met over a period of more than a year, trying to find ways to keep our government from going under because of overweight of debt. I got to know Becerra very well. Aside from serving with him, I got to sit with him day in and day out, working on the federal budget. Nobody was as knowledgeable about Social Security as he was. I often wondered his knowledge and his passion about Social Security. But it was amazing to him. I never shall forget. I made an expression in the meeting one day, and when the meeting was over, Becerra called me after the meeting. He says, now explain to me what you were saying today, because it sounded to me like you were willing to sacrifice some protections for Social Security in order to get this done. I'm not too sure that he may not have gotten me wrong on that, but I told him I will never sacrifice Social Security, but I will mind my language going forward. Becerra is that kind of person. And so I watched some of the debate from the other candidates. I've served with Katie Porter as well. She is a nice person, but if I were voting for governor in California, I would be voting for Becerra. And since I can't vote for him, I'm supporting him, raising money for him, and advocating for him as strongly as I possibly can. He's a great guy who understands the federal bureaucracy, and he is very passionate and compassionate.
Yeah. Speaking of the federal bureaucracy, I've got 5 minutes left in this conversation with you. I want to turn my attention now back to the federal government. And I want to ask a broad question, and I'll follow you, Congressman. I mentioned earlier that you are raising your voice louder than anybody else about the opportunity, the potential that Democrats have to take back the House for sure, and maybe even the Senate. You laid out very nicely the power positions that many Black folk in Congress will be in if Democrats can take back the House. Benny Thompson and Maxine Waters and Gregory Meeks and yourself, you ran the list. Say nothing of Hakeem Jeffries becoming the first African-American Speaker of the House. So there's a lot at stake here. But I wonder if you might just take a few minutes to unpack, as you see it, what is in fact at stake for the future of this democracy.
I'm very thankful that our democracy is at a crossroads. When this country was trying to give birth to itself back in 1775, as you know, we give our birth date as a country as 1776, a guy named Thomas Paine wrote a little pamphlet. And many of you, your listeners may remember that pamphlet summed up in, "These are times that try men's souls. Summer soldiers and sunshine patriots will in the crisis strength from the service of their country, but he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. For tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered, yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. This is no time for summer soldiers and sunshine patriots. I grew up in the parsonage. I believe in the written word, but we cannot wait on the Lord. We've got to do the Lord's work. We are to be instruments of God's peace. We are told in that good book that faith without works is dead. And so I want everybody to pray. I want you to keep your faith. But we got to go to work, because anything that's happened before can happen again. And I see the winds are blowing in that direction. We have got to stand up to what's going on in Washington, stand up to what's going on in the capitals of our states around the country, and speak out and go to work. Not just talk. Anybody can make a headline, but it takes good, hard work to make headway. I'm in this business to make headway. And those who are seeking headlines, good luck to them. Our children are not going to get educated from headlines. They're not going to get future development with headlines. They're going to get those things only if we commit ourselves to doing the hard work to get through this period of time, and it's going to be challenging.
I hear that distinction, Congressman, loud and clear. Headway versus headlines. Headway versus headlines. They're not the same thing. I hear you loud and clear. Let me offer this as my extra question, a two-part question. How hopeful are you about your reelection? It's hard to bet against James Clyburn, number one. But how are you feeling about your own campaign? And more broadly, how are you feeling about the chances Democrats have historically with a Black man as Speaker to take back the House?
Well, you know, I've been disappointed by a lot of individuals, and I'm feeling some disappointment now, but I am never disappointed by the people of this great nation. We rose up to the occasion all the way through the first 8 that I wrote about, all the way through the Warren coat, Earl Warren, a Californian, by the way, through Lyndon Johnson, a Southerner. Who would have thought that the man from Texas would have given us the 64 Civil Rights Act of 65, Voting Rights Act of 68, Fair Housing Law? I have seen the assistance we need to get things done come from some strange places. And I do believe that the assistance we need, the partnerships that we need are there. But we have got to do our part. Lyndon Johnson never would have called for the 1965 Voting Rights Act had it not been for John Lewis, Hosea Williams, and others marching across that Edmund Pettus Bridge on March the 7th, I believe it was, in 1965. We got the Voting Rights Act on August the 6th, 1965, but only after we did our part. So I'm saying to everybody, we don't sit back and wait on somebody to do it. Go out and do that which you can do, and you will be surprised at the partnerships that we will develop along the way, and we'll get this done.
His book is called The First Eight, A Personal History of the Pioneering Black Congressman Who Shaped the Nation. I have read the book. I highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. It ought to be added to your library. Once again, it's called The First Eight, A Personal History of the Pioneering Black Congressman Who Shaped a Nation. A lot is at stake this year. And so that's why we wanted to have a special midterm election year conversation with James E. Clyburn of South Carolina. Congressman, thank you for your time, sir. All the best to you.
Thank you so much for your friendship, and I look forward to seeing you real soon.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Pope Leo is calling for human dignity to be protected in the age of artificial intelligence,
but constantly keep the question of the human in play.
In his first encyclical presented Monday at the Vatican, the first U.S.-born pontiff warned that AI and other technologies could fuel global conflicts. South Carolina senators are blocking a new congressional map ahead of this year's elections. A motion to end debate failed Tuesday, stopping the Republican-backed plan before the midterms. Republican Senator Richard Cash said he could not support it because voting had already started and absentee ballots were already sent out. And Kehlani is heading back on tour. The Grammy-winning singer announced the Kehlani World Tour Tuesday with 33 dates across North America. The tour starts August 6th in Minneapolis and wraps October 3rd in San Francisco. Tickets go on sale May 29th. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A lot of people are calling it the best playoff run in NBA history. You can make a good case for the New York Knicks after they swept Cleveland in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks have won 11 straight playoff games and have suddenly become a potential favorite to win the NBA championship. Knicks fans in Los Angeles are rejoicing over their team making it to the NBA Finals for the first time in 27 years. The Knicks will have plenty of time to rest and prepare for the finals, which tip off June 3rd. The Western Conference Finals will go at least 6 games. San Antonio and Oklahoma City are tied at 2-2. Game 5 is tonight in OKC. Congratulations to the baseball team at HBCU Alabama State. Alabama State won the SWAC Conference title Monday with an 8-6 win over Florida A&M. The victory gives Alabama State an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You can't fix what you won't face, and we face it every day. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, I'm Chris Holden, former California Assembly member, former Mayor of Pasadena, and CEO of LA Fire Justice. I've spent my career fighting for our communities. When I saw Edison celebrating $4.5 billion in profits while Eaton fire survivors struggle to make ends meet, it made me simultaneously sick and furious. Families and individuals are dealing with financial pressure, insurance delays, costly remediation, and the painful question of how to rebuild their lives, while the utility that caused the fire is paying its executives millions and is more profitable than ever. That's not justice. That's a disgrace. Join the lawsuit with LA Fire Justice to hold Edison accountable. We're here to help you, your family, and our community recover. Visit lafirejustice.com today to learn more about your eligibility and how to start.
Advertisement. Douglas Boxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
By texting 64,000, you agree to receive recurring automated marketing messages from IQ Bar. Message and data rates may apply. No purchase required. Terms apply. Available at eatiqbar.com/policy/terms of service.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ Bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 9 plant protein bars, 8 hydration mixes, and 4 mushroom coffee sticks. And now you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping when you text RADIO to 64,000. Text RADIO to 64,000 to get your 20% off. That's RADIO to 64,000.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. An amazing interview between Tavis Smiley and Representative Jim Clyburn, one of the foremost authorities in urban radio, along with the foremost authority of African Americans in Congress, in the Congress of the United States. I'm particularly honored that in this hour, Barbara Arnwine, On the Grind with Barbara Arnwine, right here on KBLA Talk 1580, the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, is joining us to unpack the conversation between Tavis and Jim Clyburn. I can't think of a more appropriate format or show or forum to be on than KBLA when discussing the future of our people. Barbara, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Barbara, your initial thoughts on the interview between Tavis Smiley and Jim Clyburn.
It was classic Clyburn, I thought, Congressman Clyburn. He is such a historian, and I've always enjoyed that. He loves to recount history so people understand how we got to where we are now and what the implications are for the future. But you know what? For all that he said, he was being modest. I was reading an article the other day talking about his seat being threatened by redistricting, and the one thing that even the white members of the South Carolina state legislature said is that he brings more money into that state than any other politician, period. Millions upon millions of dollars that he has brought in historically and that he continues to benefit that state. And they were saying, you know, how absolutely silly it was to think that the state could just eliminate his district and have no consequences from losing his unique abilities to make sure that the state is well funded.
Barbara, you're going to the heart of the idea that to remove Jim Clyburn from Congress by redrawing his district and making him a less effective member would be a strategic mistake on behalf of Republicans in the state of South Carolina. Barbara?
Yes.
A strategic mistake if, in
Yes.
fact, Jim Clyburn were removed. And if Democrats were fortunate enough to regain control of Congress, he could continue the path of delivering for the entire state of South Carolina in ways that a freshman congressman can't.
Oh, that nobody, that apparently none of the other congressmen who are there can. I mean, I think, you know, he's not the only congressman from South Carolina, so it says a lot that he is the number one money generator, rainmaker for that state. I think the other thing is they miscalculated and underestimated Black South Carolinians. I don't know, did you see? I mean, I went online to find it because the national media has been so bad in covering these protests about the redistricting. But the one in South Carolina was fire. The African Americans who showed up in the gallery and with their white allies, and it got violent up in there for a minute. And but people were screaming and hollering about their rights, about the sacrifice that produced those seats. It was really, really powerful. And I was grateful to everyone, but I felt horrible to watch the guards, you know, throw the people on the ground and all the other, you know, evil that happened. But their work worked. And guess what? Did you hear the number one reason? One of the white Republicans said that the number one reason, you heard it today during the news break, is that it was another, you know, smart thing that the African Americans did, is that they said, everybody, we got early voting starting. How dare them do this in the middle of early voting? Don't you dare be absent. Show up and vote. Be sure to get those ballots, you know, your mail-in ballots, everything. And I have to give people credit that was one of the reasons you heard cited today on the newscast was by one of the chief Senate Republicans, was that he just couldn't go for it when people were already voting. Now, why didn't that matter in Louisiana?
Good point. Good point. Or Tennessee or Alabama.
And it just shows you what happens. But also, it's fascinating because remember, the president himself called and said to the governor, after the legislature initially said they didn't want to redistrict, the president himself called the governor and said, you got to get me that seat. And that's what led to this whole effort. Remember, they were so desperate to try to take his seat that they were going to meet on Sunday, Pentecost Sunday. They're going to meet on Pentecost Sunday. And it took, that really set a whole lot of people off. They got angry. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you, do this on a Sunday, have a special meeting just so you can do this wickedness. Oh, it was good.
Barbara, I think that I think also that some of us who oppose the seniority system in the Congress, they fail to recognize that for African Americans who gain seniority in the Congress, it is different than our white counterparts, either in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Jim Clyburn's institutional memory of Congress matters. The first 8 African Americans from South Carolina elected during first Reconstruction were Black. Jim Clyburn said it took 95 years from the moment the last African American in Congress in South Carolina left office to his election in 1993.
Right.
He has served in that seat essentially in second Reconstruction. And given his age and given the desire by elements within the state to redraw the state, Jim Clyburn could be the last African American to serve in the Congress of the United States from South Carolina in what remains of this century. We could be talking about not electing another Black to Congress until 2100.
Yeah.
Which is what Jim Clyburn is also sharing with us in his modesty. And so, there's a lot to be said about we need some new, young, bright faces in Congress. But Jim Clyburn and other members of Congress, Maxine Waters, who are from that particular tradition, they matter to us as a people. Barbara, we have about just a few seconds before we come forward. Your final thoughts on Jim Clyburn before we get to some current issues in our next segment?
Yes. I mean, I think that, he has made his really tremendous mark on the Congress. And I just think that we're going to see voters do what voters do. Voters show up, they make assessments of how they've been represented, and they will, make their decisions as to who they elect. And I think the one thing people forget is that the most beautiful thing about the Congressional Black Caucus is that it is, when it comes to the caucus, the most progressive wing of the caucus.
I'm Jesse Jackson. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're on the grind with Barbara Arnwine, recapping the amazing interview between Tavis Smiley and Congressman Jim Clyburn. More when we come forward to KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction.
Backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for State Superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee. Not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
Lunch was great, but this traffic is awful.
Can we stop at a bathroom?
Are you all right?
I keep having stomach issues after eating, like diarrhea, gas and bloating, abdominal pain, and sometimes oily stools.
Sound familiar? Those stomach issues may actually be a pancreas issue called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. Creon pancrelipase may help manage EPI. Creon is a prescription medicine used to treat people who can't digest food normally because their pancreas doesn't make enough enzymes.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you are allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon. Call 800-633-9110 or visit creoninfo.com to learn more. That's CREON info.com.
I'm asking my doctor about EPI and if Creon could help.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through the city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at kbla1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
Unapologetically progressive.
What if your rooftop could earn you money every year? With LADWP's Solar Rooftops program, you can get solar panels installed and maintained on your home at no cost and earn up to $900 a year. That's up to $18,000 over 20 years. There are no upfront costs, no credit checks, and no annual fees. Plus, you'll help power Los Angeles with clean local solar energy and reduce reliance on fossil fuels. Make your rooftop work for you. Apply today at ladwp.com/solar rooftops.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're on the grind with Barbara Arnwine. Barbara, I just have 2 questions for you very quickly, and then I want to go through whatever it is that you want to deal with in the remaining moments of our show. I'm very grateful that you had me on today as your very special guest.
You are
on
wonderful.
your very insightful show. I'm grateful for that. Barbara, speaking of seniority, 12 Republicans gave Jim Clyburn a reprieve in South Carolina today, and Republicans in the state of Mississippi are also giving a reprieve to Benny Thompson. Now, I can't promise that the reprieve will be there in 2028 or 2030 or 2032, but the relationships, just because they're black, does not mean that they don't have relationships on both sides of the aisle and they worked effectively with everybody. Just being black isn't just our agenda. Jim Clyburn has been championing and Benny Thompson have been championing the agendas of their states, and that's one of the reasons why they're so successful. Barbara?
Numerosity. Also, don't ever forget numerosity. The huge black population in Mississippi, 40% black, probably more when you think about the undercount, and South Carolina, very heavy number. I think that one of the calculations I saw that they actually talked about, the senators talked about last week, was the danger of getting rid of his district and sending all those black people into their districts. Did you see that?
That's enough to get their undivided attention as well, isn't it?
Darn straight. And they said these aren't just your, sleep at home, don't do nothing blacks. These are organized, fiercely voting black folks.
That's right.
They said we could lose. They actually said there's a probability. This goes to what you were talking about earlier on my show. They said it's possible that if you split those blacks into 3 or 4 of our districts, we can lose those districts. Mm-hmm. And so numerosity counts. I've always pointed out to people that when you talk about politics in America, you talk about 2 factors: numerosity and money.
Barbara, we have about 6 minutes to the top of the show. You cover the entire country for us. Barbara, what can we do and what do you need us to do between now and the top of the show?
I want everyone to vote. There is South Carolina. Keep on voting. Don't just stop right now. Keep that voting going. Keep that early voting going. That's important. Everybody, we all have family down in South Carolina. Call them. Make sure they're early voting. The other thing I want people to know is get ready for John Lewis. Good Trouble lives on. Come on now. July 17th through 19th, we want to have the largest voter registration drive that we've seen since Freedom Summer 1965. The other thing I want people to know is that back talkers. People say, what in the world is a back talker? Well, Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw has her new book out called Back Talker. And and they're calling their summer school this year the Back Talker Academy. It starts tomorrow. I'm on the faculty of the summer school.
Barbara,
and so
break
you want to
Back
go
Talker
deep,
down for us.
deep, huh?
Break Back Talker down for us.
Back Talker is basically the practice of not taking what people tell you as fact and what you must do. It's being resistant to the narrative that is put out there where you say, no, wait a minute, that's not what I know. And it's back talking, saying, no, you got that wrong. I'm sorry. You can't convince me of that. You are a back talker.
I know a bunch of African American
You are number one back
who
talker.
are missing their front teeth for back talking.
You got it. You got it.
That kind of back talking. Oh, I got it. You want political back talking.
Political and consciousness black talking. Saying what the hell you talking about? We don't have any history. You want me to tell you what our history is?
Right.
It's back talking. So the Back Talkers Academy starts tomorrow. And if you want to be part of it, you can go to aapf.org. aapf.org and sign up and be part of it because
That's
I'm
wonderful.
talking. I'm
That's
back
wonderful.
talking.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Boy, we can spin some stuff. That's kind of amazing. What else should we be doing, Barbara? We're voting in South Carolina. We're voting, I believe, in Louisiana. We're voting, I think right now we're voting in Alabama and Tennessee, aren't we, Barbara?
All of that is happening, but let me be very clear, people. Today, 3 big things happened. And they only happened because Black folks been out in these streets raising hell. And I meant hell, Hell. And that is, 1, the courts, the 3-judge federal court ruled in Alabama that attempt by the Alabama state legislature. Remember when they were meeting during the tornado and all the floods and all that, and they were so determined to be racist and get rid of that district? Well, the 3-court panel today invalidated that map that the Alabama state legislature passed and told them they have to go back to the old map that has, 2 African American majority districts. So the Alabama state legislature isn't happy. They'll probably appeal it, but we're happy because that happened because Black folks.
You need some good news around here.
Yeah, and the other good news, of course, you mentioned earlier, is Mississippi. That Mississippi had talked about they were going to do all this redistricting, all this stuff. Now they're talking about, well, we're not so sure because somebody's done that map counting. They done split it around and looked at it and they realized you killed Benny Thompson's district and they got serious problems. Again, what you going to do with all those Blacks? What you going to do with all those smart Blacks? What you going to do with all those organized Blacks? Folks, they only fear us if we're organized. So get organized.
Barbara, we got about 30 seconds for your word of hope.
My word of hope is that I'm just joyous that people continue to fight. Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Dr. King, Jesse Jackson Sr., they're all looking at us and they're saying, keep on fighting, children.
We can support Barbara Arnwine at the tjcoalition.org. tjcoalition.org is the way to support Barbara. She's in the streets and in the field on behalf of us in all of these states, getting our people out to vote, inspiring them and registering them. Barbara, I love you very much, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh, no, you're the best. Thank you.
Look forward to talking with you next week. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Thought-provoking Wednesdays or Wealthy Wednesdays will be tomorrow, and I look forward to seeing you all then. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.